Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Um, Hope you are all well. आप लोग अपना ख्याल रखिए उनको अभी yesterday I had a class of strategic marketing, and I came to know that one of the students has contracted the coronavirus, and he is in school. So, Sufaran, Muhammad Ikram, and take all the precautions to take care of yourself. So, everybody, let's start. Okay, last time we discussed uh, what did we discuss? We discussed, yeah, we discussed um, logical fallacies, right? So, anybody has a question in logical fallacies, you can ask. What was the last lecture? Thought experiment. We did thought experiment. So now we have let me ask you. We have two options. We can go for a new topic today, or we can solve a problem, a kind of a problem right here. You can attempt it and show you the question. You can attempt it, and we can then discuss it on my screen. So, should we go for a practice problem, or should we have a lecture on a new topic? Your call. Let me know I'm waiting. Practice problem. Three for lecture. One for practice. Anyone else? और भी लोग बता दें। If we do the practice problem, we will be solving the Einstein riddle. More for lecture. I thought you guys would go for the Einstein riddle, so I'll open that up. चलो मैं उसको बंद कर देता हूँ और हम शुरू करते हैं। So last time we read it on thought experiment, and I wanted to ask if we have done hypothesis um, development and how logic and hypothesis work together. Have we discussed that topic or not? Maybe we did in the originally in the classroom, so I don't really remember. Anybody? Hello. कुछ नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम है, आप लोगों को आवाज नहीं जा रही है, आप टाइप कर। Okay, so that's one topic, and another topic is theories of truth. Can we discuss theories of truth? So when people are in inshallah, I'm gonna if you are being okay. I'm still waiting. The meanwhile, I have marked your attendance. Okay. So let's first talk about hypotheses. So you guys may have studied the course of statistical inference. Have you? So if you study that, that will help us in understanding what a hypothesis is. Because you might have done something in that statistical inference. Have you done that? Okay. So In the course of statistical inference, we studied that, let me just remind you first. You studied about confidence intervals, you studied about hypotheses, you studied about t-test. So what was that? When we have a normal distribution, it means that that we have opinions or data collected about something, and when we are taking that data, then we have two classifications of those data. One is that we can have the whole census, which means we can take the whole population, or we can have a sample. So the problem is that when we are using the uh, V-test, for example, it means that we know the population mean and we know the sample mean. But we usually do not know the population mean, which means that we are taking a sample and we do not know if that sample actually represents the population or not. Now, what does that really mean? Now, for example, we go for a medical kind of testing. We take a blood sample. Now, whenever we are required to take a blood sample, how much blood do we take from a person? We take about 3 ml of blood. So, out of 7 liters or about 7,000 ml of blood, we take 3 for testing. And we assume that the rest of the 6,997 ml are exactly the same as the blood that we have tested. Now, how can we make that assumption? How can we know that the sample represents the population, the whole? We know because blood is homogeneous. It is the same. So you take blood out from your arm or your leg or any other place. So it will be the same blood. And because blood is moving all the time, therefore it is it's also a kind of a surety that it will be homogeneous in nature. It will be the same. Therefore, we only need a small portion to test and to identify. So, but the problem is that when we are doing research or any kind of study on human beings, then we know that human beings are not homogeneous. Their opinions cannot be homogeneous. Anything in fact cannot be homogeneous. We are all heterogeneous, which means that our opinions will be different from each other. No matter how much we try to have a consensus on anything, still we will have a bit of disagreement on things. So, how does that impact our sample representation? Now, it affects it in this way because we are heterogeneous. It means the sample does not always represent the population. Now, how is that? For example, if we take a few people from our class and ask them, um, let's say, if we want to ask if students are uh, going out of their homes or not, are they staying at home or are they going out? we want to conduct that study. So we went out and we sent a survey, online survey, to all the schools. Now, if we receive answers from BBA students only, then we are very likely to see that most of the answers will be that yes, they were at their home all the time. But if we receive answers from the MBA or the weekend program, then we'll see that they will say that we had to go to work, because most of them are employed somewhere, they are doing some job, and many are working in banks, many are working in other places. So banks are open, and and many other places are open. So they are working either from home or they are going out. So a good portion of the MBA students will be saying that we are going out for work. Now, if we take the whole sample from that MBA, then our results will be very different if we take the whole sample from BBA. The truth will lie somewhere in between if we have a proportionate mix of answers from BBA and MBA. For example, if we have 500 students of BBA and 250 students from MBA, then from the 750 students, we have 75 as a sample. So the sample should be such that we should take 50 from BBA and 25 from MBA. That would represent the population well. Even then, we have to be sure that the sample is truly representing the population or not. So what we do is that we say that we cannot always be 100% sure, but we can be sure if we have a good sample and if we have the right sample, then we can be very sure that that our sample is truly representing the population. So how can we be sure, or how much sure can we be? So the answer is that by using the statistical tools, we are able to know that. Now, how do we do that? We say that there are confidence intervals. So in the confidence interval of, for example, 95%, we say that the margin of error that the sample is not representing the population is only 5%. So we are 95% confident that this is the sample is right. Now, how does this relate to logic? Now, if we remember, we talked about induction. So, what is induction? Induction is a kind of a reasoning in which we are taking a small part of the whole, and on observing that, we are actually assuming or estimating things about the whole. For example, we take out some beans from a bag, and we took out some beans from a bag and they were white. We took out another bean, it was white. We took out another bean, it was white. So after taking out 5 beans, we say that all the beans in the bag are white. So this is induction, and this is the same as taking samples, because we are taking samples and we are asking people the same thing. So just like taking out those beans from the bag, we ask the opinions of people. So we start asking people, and we asked the opinions of 50 students if they are going out or not, and their answers represent the population. So that's the induction. Now, when we are doing this, then we are making interval. So that means we are using induction. Now, the question is, do we only use induction? No, we actually also use deduction in reasoning, in hypothesis. For example, we say that we want to know about the description of something. We don't know if that is true or not about something, and we want to find out a certain description. Now, description and cause are two different things. When we want to know about causation, we go for the variables that have an impact on each other. So we take samples of our opinions of people and then we test them on that model. But when we're talking about description, it means, for example, we say that how many uh, students uh, um, in our university are did their matriculation in their first go without failing. Now, this is a kind of a research because it will require information, but this is the kind of information that we can find out for sure. We can just go and give the list to the send that list to the board, or ask all the students to submit their matric mark sheet. And if we do that, then we can simply find out the exact number of the students who did their matric without failing. So if we can do that, then it's a kind of a deductive logic, because we can say that we know the exact answer. There is no a possibility of a wrong answer. So it's an irrefutable argument, you can say. Just like that, the hypothesis can also be abductive in nature. Now, how is that? When we are making a model, which means what we call a conceptual framework. Now, what is a conceptual framework? If you don't know, then let me repeat it for you. A conceptual framework has some variables. One of these variables is called the dependent variable, another is called the independent variable. Do you know what these are? Write yes in the chat if you know for sure what these are. Do you know about mediating and moderating too? I've just written it down. Mediating, moderating, independent, dependent, exogenous, exogenous variables. I'm waiting for your answer, please. You know that I will not go into detail. You already know that. Sumaila, you want to say something? You can just write it down here. Dependent, independent, but not the rest. So you know that dependent and independent variables are the ones. That's very simple. When dependent is the one, are the ones that are making an impact on the dependent. Usually, we see that there is one dependent variable, and many independent variables have making an impact on the dependent variable. Now, the mediating variable is a variable that is in between the independent and dependent variable. For example, if we take a simple model of, let's say, if students study well, a very well-known model, however, it's not a true model, but still a very well-accepted model. Students study well, then if they study well, then this has an impact on their grade. If this has an impact on their grade, then getting good grades will land them an interview. And if they get a chance in the interview, then they will get a job. So the first one is that you study well, you get a good grade, you have an opportunity for interview, and you get a job. So the dependent variable is getting a job. The independent is studying. But you see, it's not that if you ask any student that why are you studying, and the student says so that I can get a job. The student will never say that. If you ask somebody who is preparing for an exam that why are you studying, he will say because I'm studying to get a job. That student is not really studying to get a job. The student is studying to get a GPA, which in turn will get an interview, which in turn will get a job. So the variable in between GPA and interview are the mediating variables. They are mediating the effect, the dependence of the job on study. That's called mediating variables. They are in between. Now, what are the moderating variables? Moderating variables means let's take an example. Basically, moderating variables define the strength of the relation between two variables. They change the strength of the relation. Yeah, we can say in the same model, there will be many students who will be studying the same. But studying the same does not always result in the same GPA, which means that you have studied the same and some students before you have studied the same level, but they did not get the same result. Now, why is that? Because there are some other variables that are helping you get that GPA. Now, helping you means, for example, the input from the teacher. If the teacher is helping you to study, so we can say teacher's help is one variable. The teacher's help is actually increasing the impact of study on GPA. It's not directly impacting the GPA. If teacher's help is there, it will not get you a good GPA. And if the teacher's help is there, you are not bound to study more. But if you study more and you get the teacher's help, then you will have a better chance of getting a better GPA. If the teacher's help is not there, you will still get a GPA, but it might not be that much. It means that the relation, the strength of the relation between the study and the GPA is strengthened by the teacher's help. If the teacher is not helpful, if it is negative, then even the student who wants to study might not end up with a good GPA. So that's called the moderating variable. It helps the relationship between two variables, and it's not a variable in between. It's not that your study impacts the teacher's help. It doesn't. So it's not in between. A it's a moderating variable. And then we have exogenous variables. Now, exogenous variables are those variables that are not part of the model but still have an impact. Now, how is that so? That seems weird, but it is so. Now, exogenous variables, as compared to endogenous variables who have an impact, being in the model, exogenous are the ones that have an impact on a certain variable or the dependent variable while not being a part of the model, because it is a kind of a universal, maybe universal kind of impact on everything. For example, we can say that, let's take an example of exogenous. Yeah. We say that if you study well for uh, yeah, okay. There is a course of English, English, whatever, business communication or English or whatever. If you study well, then and the teacher's help is there, then you will get a good GPA. You give the same test to students all around the globe. All around the globe. Now, the question is, will the students uh, score the same way in everywhere in the world? The answer is not. Why not? Because the people who have their mother tongue as English will definitely be able to score better than those students whose mother tongue is not English. So having a mother tongue as English is a kind of an exogenous variable. It's not about that model. We cannot include have the mother tongue in the model of studying and getting a better GPA in a course. Not possible. But still it has an impact. So we see that there are some variables that are outside the model. They are not part of this causation, but still have an impact. So they are called exogenous variables. Now, when we are talking about exogenous variables, in particular, or moderating variables, or mediating variables, we use abductive logic a lot. For example, if we say that there are certain scores, let's look at the same example. We just mixed up all the scores from different uh, uh, countries. Let's say we looked at the SAT scores of students from all around the world, and then we tried to classify them. We made it in different groups. So we found out that the students from South Asia scored less in English as compared to students from USA or Europe, particularly Britain. So they have scored more in English as compared to the ones that are as in South Asia. So we say that because they have scored less, now what could be the reason? So what could be the reason for this? And we say that the mother tongue might be a reason. It could be an exogenous variable that is having an impact. So what we have done is that we have used abductive logic to find out what could have been the reason for something that has already happened. That's called abduction, you know. So it could have been something else as well. For example, uh, uh, the material, the testing material that was available for the South Asian students was not as good as for the USA or the Britain students. Maybe they got better test material. Maybe they had better teachers. Maybe their motivation to get those results was better. Maybe I don't know. There could be many reasons, but one of them could be their mother tongue. So one of them could be the mother tongue, and therefore we assume that exogenous variable, and then we test it again using induction. So abductive reasoning helps us to, you can say, upgrade our model and improve our model to include the moderating and the exogenous variables. While inductive reasoning helps us to find out the uh, uh, find out if our model is how accurate our model is truly, if the sample is really representing the population or not. And about And when we are going for the descriptive statistics, which means how the data were grouped together and how they were related with each other. Maybe the genders or the ages, how many of them were in this age, how many of them were in that age. So all this kind of grouped data requires deductive reasoning. So we use all three kinds of reasoning when we are making a simple hypothesis. Okay, so I'm going to share some examples so that you can understand. So you have this, for example. Can you see this? So this is a simple model. If you just look at this part, a very simple model that customer satisfaction has an impact on customer loyalty. If the customer is satisfied, then the customer will purchase the thing again. Very simple model. But the question is, how is the customer satisfied? Satisfaction is dependent on something else as well. It is not part of this model, but perceived quality and customer expectation can be an exogenous variable having an impact on customer satisfaction. So we can say that we don't know how the customer is satisfied, but these might be one of the many or two of the many variables that have an impact on customer satisfaction. So we take those variables and then we test them. We can also include them in our model if they come in the scope of the research. Even if they don't, we can still include them as exogenous variables. So we are using the abductive reasoning to do that. So we are going to wrap up for today, and I'm going to share a few videos on abductive reasoning in all of these reasoning with you on Google Classroom. So be sure to watch those videos because they will count for the class on Thursday. So be sure to watch the videos and then hopefully I will send a quiz or an assignment about that on those videos. So do that, and meanwhile, just take care of yourself and have a good Ramadan. We'll wrap it up for today. Okay, if you have any questions, then you can ask for the videos, please. If there are no questions, then I'll just finish it. Okay, then see you guys next Tuesday. Same time, 11. Okay? Yes, last Sunday. It was at 11, from 11 to 12.